I hope you're doing okay. My name is Daniel, and the story I'm about to share isn't just another Reddit drama. It's a piece of someone's life, shattered by betrayal. It's heavy, it's painful, and for anyone who's ever felt the ground disappear beneath their feet, this might hit a little too close. Today's story is from a subreddit called Pro Revenge, originally posted by someone under the username Waffles Are Forever. But for this retelling, everything's been changed. Names, places, even the ages of the people involved. Because this kind of heartbreak could belong to anyone. Let me take you to a quiet neighborhood just outside of Boulder, Colorado. That's where I, Lucas, 41, lived with my wife, Emily, 39, and our 2 children. We'd been there for nearly a decade. Across the street lived our closest friends, Ben and Melissa. Ben was 42, a guy I came to love like a brother. Our families were inseparable. We vacationed together every summer, did backyard barbecues most weekends, and even had a monthly game night with the kids. Melissa and Emily were like sisters. There was a time I truly believed we were all building something beautiful side by side. And then, 5 months ago, everything collapsed. It started so quietly. An email left open on our shared laptop. Nothing seemed odd at first, just a message from Emily to her therapist. But one line stopped me cold. Ben will be joining me for next week's session. My heart started pounding. Why the hell would Ben be going to therapy with my wife? I searched more. I had to. And what I found made my hands shake. There were emails, at least a dozen, where their therapist referred to them as a pair. I checked our family phone account and found text logs, hundreds of messages exchanged between them every single day. By December, they were hitting nearly 500 a day. While I was tucking in the kids, they were texting under the dinner table. While we were sitting next to each other opening Christmas gifts, they were writing each other from across the room. The worst part? They did all of this right in front of us. Right in front of Melissa and me. Laughing, joking, planning, sharing glances, all while pretending we were still one happy group of friends. I confronted Emily late one night after the kids had gone to sleep. I couldn't hold it in anymore. She didn't deny it. She didn't even try to soften the blow. "I don't know how it happened," she said, barely able to look at me. "But I love him. I don't feel anything for you anymore. I'm sorry." She told me it started on a school district retreat, just one night in a hotel room, one mistake that became something bigger. They had already talked about leaving Melissa and me, about making it easier for the kids by waiting until things settled. The therapist sessions? Supposedly, they were just trying to figure out how to break our hearts gently. But I don't believe that. Melissa doesn't either. We're both certain they had no intention of ever telling us. They would have let us believe everything was fine until one day they'd decide to walk away with some half-baked excuse. Emily moved out 2 months ago. I still cry almost every day. I cried writing this, and I'll probably cry again tonight. I worry constantly about what this is doing to our children. But even through the wreckage, a small part of me is still burning, because I was betrayed. Not just by the woman I gave my life to, but by the man I called my brother. A couple of years back, Ben ran for a seat on the local board of education. It was a long shot. He wasn't well known, didn't have political connections, but I helped him. I designed his flyers, coached him through his debates, helped him win. And Emily, who worked in the district and had a glowing reputation, spread his name like wildfire. That campaign changed everything. It became their excuse to be together at every school event, every committee meeting. Looking back, I can see it now. Every evening they were working late, they were laying the groundwork for betrayal. And I was the fool who handed them the match. Somehow, against the odds, Ben actually won that seat on the school board. He edged it out by just a handful of votes. We celebrated his victory like it was our own. Back then, I was proud of him. I told everyone I knew about how far he'd come. Emily helped him behind the scenes, getting the word out through her school district connections. It was a team effort, and I thought we were all growing together. That win changed everything. Ben threw himself into the position like it was his life's calling. He signed up for every single committee, attended every event, made every meeting. It consumed his nights and weekends. But what I didn't realize, what I couldn't see, was that this new role was the perfect cover for their affair. All those late meetings, those so-called planning sessions, they weren't about policy, they were about each other. When I found out what had been going on, my mind didn't just spiral into heartbreak, it slipped into a quiet kind of rage, the kind that grows roots and won't let go. The affair wasn't just a personal betrayal, it might have also been a violation of district policy. Ben, a board member, Emily, a school district employee. It was politics at its most hypocritical. And Emily's timing couldn't have been worse. She was on the verge of landing a major promotion, an administrative job that came with a huge salary jump. Everyone in the district knew it was basically hers. She had just finished a master's degree in school leadership, and both the superintendent and her principal had pushed her to apply. I had proof, screenshots, call logs, texts between them openly admitting to everything, even emails from their therapist. But something held me back from just sending everything to the board and the superintendent. I was afraid they'd dismiss me as a bitter, heartbroken husband. So I made someone up. A fake friend, a furious local who threatened to confront them at the next board meeting and publicly call out their affair. I told Emily I had tried to calm this person down, but couldn't promise they wouldn't show up and cause a scene. The plan worked better than I could have imagined. Ben panicked, and in his panic, he confessed everything to the board before the meeting even happened. The superintendent, after hearing the details, advised that Ben resign to avoid a public spectacle. So he did. Melissa told me he didn't get out of bed for 3 days after that. She said he looked hollow, like something inside him had finally broken. Word of the resignation and the affair spread like wildfire through the district. A day or two later, the superintendent, who had once been a close friend to both Emily and Ben, called Emily with a forced smile in his voice and told her that, unfortunately, it would no longer be politically viable for her to take the promotion. The job that had been quietly promised to her was filled by someone from outside the district within the week. It sent shockwaves through the staff. Everyone had assumed Emily would get the job. It was a done deal. The next day, despite everything, we tried to hold it together for our son's birthday. We took him out to breakfast, just the 3 of us. Emily was doing her best to smile through it when her parents walked over to our table and congratulated her on the promotion they assumed she had secured. She nodded, thanked them, then quietly excused herself. I watched her from across the diner as she stood in the bathroom hallway, sobbing into her hands. I let a few weeks pass before I told her the truth. There was never any furious friend. It was just me. Since then, the story has made its way around Boulder. This town isn't as big as it seems. Emily, who's worked in the school system here for nearly 2 decades, won't talk to me about how things are at work. But people still talk. I hear whispers. Her spotless reputation? Tarnished. Ben, once the loudest voice at every block party, now barely leaves his house. He's moving soon, into a run-down townhouse across town. Child support's eaten away what little he had left. They say they're still trying to make their relationship work. I say, let them try. Let's see how far love born in secrecy and lies can carry 2 people once the silence sets in and the town stops looking away. Melissa and I have become something of a lifeline to each other. We're not what people like to imagine. not romantically entangled, not some movie script rebound connection. But we've been deeply important to one another through all of this. Losing your spouse is hard. Losing them to someone you both trusted makes it almost unbearable. There's a grief we both understand without having to explain it out loud. We've leaned on each other more than I ever thought we would. In a way, she's the only person who truly knows what this has felt like, because she lived it too. The betrayal, the confusion, the kids caught in the crossfire. We're both trying to survive the same hurricane with the same people at its center, and that matters. Ben still hadn't moved out of their house across the street at the time, which made things harder. The proximity, the constant reminder. Melissa and I talked about how, once he was finally gone, maybe we could return to something close to what our kids once had. They used to play together almost daily. They were like cousins. But now, even letting them be kids feels complicated. Melissa brings them over sometimes. We'll sit on the porch with coffee while they run around the backyard. It's never like it used to be. It never will be. Because even if the laughter returns, the trust never really does. Someone once asked me if I regretted the revenge. If maybe, in some twisted way, I'd hurt our kids by humiliating Ben and Emily so publicly. I thought about that a lot, and no, I don't think I did. Ben's role on the school board was more passion project than paycheck. His day job is still intact. As for Emily, she's been told by both her former principal and the superintendent that if she applies for an administrative job in another district, she'll get letters of recommendation, so the option to move forward is still there. She'll have to give up a lot: colleagues, comfort, reputation, but she's still employable. I think the shame will push her to leave Boulder sooner rather than later. And while she hasn't gotten the promotion, she's still in the classroom, still has summers off with the kids. It could be worse. Another person asked why I still refer to her as my wife, not my ex. The simple answer is that our divorce isn't final yet. We're slogging through mediation, trying to settle the last of it. But emotionally, she's been gone for a long time. I was also asked how I didn't notice the texting. The truth is, I did. It started to wear on me months before the truth came out. I remember asking her to put her phone down at dinner. She would agree, reluctantly, but 5 minutes later, her fingers would be tapping again under the table. She told me it was work, that she had a big social circle, that it wasn't a big deal. But it was constant, and it was invasive. She was disappearing right in front of me, night after night, buried in that screen. What I didn't want to see, what I refused to believe, was that the messages weren't harmless, that they weren't just casual. Melissa noticed it too. She told me she was getting a weird feeling about them, and together we confronted Ben and Emily. Both of them swore up and down that it was nothing, just school stuff, just friendly texts. They lied to our faces while standing in our homes. And we believed them, because sometimes your mind protects you from the truth. It builds a soft wall around it until you're ready to see it. And by the time we were, it was already too late. I want to thank everyone who read my story when I first shared it. I didn't expect much. I thought maybe 1 or 2 people would relate, but the response was overwhelming. I couldn't reply to everyone, but I read every comment, even the harsh ones. They gave me something to reflect on, helped me see that the pain I was going through wasn't unique, and somehow that made it more bearable. This past Memorial Day was quiet. I missed Emily more than I thought I would, not because I want her back, but because I still grieve the life I thought we had, the one I thought would last. Next weekend, I'm taking my kids camping, just the 3 of us. I think we need it, something to look forward to, something to plan around. That's what I hold on to these days, small, steady things that remind me we're still here, still standing, still healing. This is the part where I should probably warn anyone reading. Things got dark for me, really dark. I reached a point where I didn't just feel broken, I felt hollow. I had a plan, a very specific one. Everything I needed to carry it out was already in place. I would tell myself, quietly, late at night, that if life became just a little more unbearable, I had a way out. That thought, cold as it was, gave me a strange kind of comfort. Not because I wanted to die, but because I needed to believe I had control over something, anything. But I'm still here. Somehow. I don't think like that anymore, at least not often. That version of me feels distant now, like someone I once knew and pitied. I still carry the weight, of course, the damage, but I've stitched some of myself back together. Eventually, I gave in and tried online dating. At first it was a mess. Brief conversations, awkward coffee meetups, people who just didn't get it. It made me feel lonelier, honestly, like I was a puzzle piece no one had space for anymore. But then, after a few false starts, I met someone. Her name's Claire. We've been together for almost 2 years now. She's kind, grounded, warm in a way that doesn't feel like a performance. We don't live together. We're not rushing anything. We see each other a few times a week, and right now, that's enough. Would I like more someday? Sure. But I'm not ready to merge lives again. Not ready for blended family dinners or Brady Bunch chaos. For now, she gives me peace, and that's more than I ever thought I'd find again. As for Emily and Ben, yes, they're still a couple, technically, but if my kids are to be believed, it's not the fairy tale they imagined. Ben rarely shows up when they're with her. When he does, they steer clear of him. They don't like him, don't trust him. My daughter once told me that Emily had acted so sure they'd be living together by now, playing happy family. But they still aren't. No cohabitation, no serious steps forward. They did, however, buy a boat. A boat. I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that. It just feels cliché. Two people who destroyed their families buying a floating escape from reality. Somehow, it's the most fitting thing they could have done. Melissa, God, she's been a rock. It took her a long time to really believe her marriage was over. But once she did, she moved forward with a kind of quiet strength I still admire. She poured herself into home improvement projects, built shelves, painted walls, taught herself plumbing from YouTube. She's still the same incredible mom she's always been. These days, she's in a casual, no-strings relationship with a funny, decent guy. That's all she wants right now, and she deserves that space. We still hang out occasionally, mostly in the summer when my backyard pool opens. The kids play, and we sip cheap wine and talk about nothing important. We're not as dependent on each other as we were in the early days after it all fell apart, but we're still close, still tethered by shared pain. And I'm glad there was never more between us. That's the one thing this mess didn't need. More complicated emotions, more hurt. We both had enough. Emily ended up leaving the Boulder School District. Word gets around, and I think she finally realized she couldn't rebuild her image in the same place she helped tear it down. She got a job in a nearby district. I don't know where Ben works now, and honestly, I don't care. I see him maybe once or twice a year at school events. For a while, I worried that if he looked at me the wrong way, I'd do something reckless, something that would end with me being escorted out of a cafeteria in handcuffs. But now, I don't even flinch. He's a ghost to me. All things considered, life is okay. I still miss being part of a family. I still have nights when I wake up with the weight of everything pressing down on my chest. Sometimes, when the silence gets too loud, I fall asleep to audiobooks just to drown out the noise in my head. My girlfriend's amazing. My sister just got married and asked me to officiate. I have a big dog that drags me on long walks and keeps me tethered to the present. And I'm still standing, still healing. My name is Ivy. I'm 30 now. I met Ryan when I was just 16, and we've been together ever since. He was 2 years older, steady and kind, and I thought I'd finally found safety. I didn't have a family of my own growing up, at least not one that stayed, so when Ryan brought me to meet his, I was excited in a way that almost felt childish, nervous but hopeful. I wanted to belong to something, to someone. That first dinner with his family felt like the beginning of everything I'd dreamed of. They were loud and warm, teasing each other over the food. Ryan had told them I was Italian, like his family was, on his father's side. My mom's family was too, though I barely knew them. Still, they welcomed me with open arms. At first, his aunts and cousins started speaking Italian to me across the table, and I was overwhelmed. I smiled, explained gently that I didn't really speak it, but I was willing to learn. They seemed disappointed, but understanding. So I tried. God, did I try. I bought language apps, I practiced for hours. I asked Ryan's mother, Angela, to help me learn family recipes. I memorized the one she taught me. I laughed when I messed up a word or got corrected on my pronunciation. I just wanted to be one of them. And for a while, it felt like maybe I was. Until one day, someone asked where my parents were. Who raised me? It was an innocent question, but the answer I gave, just a few brief words, changed everything. I won't get into the details here, it's too much. But after that night, the warmth vanished. All the polite smiles turned cold. Suddenly, everything I did was wrong. When I spoke Italian, they laughed at me. When I stopped trying, they'd switch to Italian on purpose, saying cruel things about me to each other right in front of my face, assuming I wouldn't catch on. But I did. Eventually, I understood enough. Enough to hear myself called names I won't repeat here. Enough to know I'd become their scapegoat, their punching bag. Angela didn't stop them. Not at first. Ryan didn't either. He froze whenever I told him how hurt I was. Said they were just old school. Said they'd warm up. Said I just had to give it more time. But time kept moving, and they didn't change. It wasn't until our son, Noah, was born that Angela finally shifted. She stopped joining in, not because she saw the damage, but because she realized that siding with them meant risking her relationship with Ryan. She didn't defend me, but she stopped attacking. And in that house, silence was the closest thing to love I could get. Then, last year, Ryan's cousin Jacob brought home a new girlfriend. Her name was Brielle. She was sweet, thoughtful, polite, and not Italian at all. And yet, they adored her. Angela doted on her like she'd hung the stars, taught her the same recipes I had begged to learn, laughed with her in Italian like they were sisters. I watched it all unfold, numb. Then Brielle casually mentioned something one night that made my stomach drop. She'd grown up in the foster system, just like me. She shared it without shame. And their reaction? Smiles, hugs, "You're family now," they said. Something inside me shattered. I smiled, excused myself from the table, and went to sit on the front steps. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't cry. I just sat there, frozen in that quiet ache that comes from realizing you were never really accepted. You were just tolerated, and barely that. Ryan found me a few minutes later. We left quietly. Angela lives just down the street from us. She came knocking not even an hour later, angry that I'd left without giving her a proper goodbye. Her tone was syrupy and sharp, like always, and I snapped. 10 years of silence broke loose all at once. I screamed, cried, spilled every bruise they'd left on my heart. I told her every cruel word I'd heard, every moment they made me feel like less than human. I didn't hold back. Ryan told her to go home. Then, once she was gone, he turned to me and said I was out of line, that I was jealous, that I embarrassed him. Maybe I did, but I don't regret it. Because sometimes the only way out of pain is through it, and I've been choking on mine for a decade. Now I just wonder if staying has cost me too much. Some people said I was never the villain, that my outburst at Angela wasn't about Ryan's cousin's girlfriend. It was about 10 years of being silenced, dismissed, and treated like I didn't belong. I've read the comments, and they hit hard. One person said this situation would never improve unless Ryan grew a spine, and honestly, I don't think he will. That truth is bitter. I've spent so long hoping he'd finally stand between me and the storm, but I think deep down I always knew he wouldn't. Someone else wrote that my anger wasn't rooted in jealousy. It came from a place of exhaustion, from a decade of trying to be enough for people who never wanted to accept me. They said I should cut ties with anyone who mocked or mistreated me. Move away, build a life far from people who only know how to hurt. And I'm starting to believe they're right. Another commenter said the part that really got to me: if Noah ever learns enough to understand what they're saying, if he hears them insult me in front of him, or worse, starts to feel that same cold favoritism, what then? I'm his mother, and I owe him better than silence. Maybe I owe myself better too. Maybe it's time I stopped hoping for change in people who've proven they have none to offer. In real life, many people find themselves trapped in families or relationships where love is conditional, where acceptance hinges on how well you blend in, not who you really are. Ivy's story reminds us that emotional abuse doesn't always come from shouting. It can come from decades of subtle disrespect, exclusion, and belittling. If you're in a toxic environment, the first step is acknowledging it. Set clear boundaries. Protect your emotional safety, especially when children are involved. Therapy can help validate your feelings and provide tools for healing. And sometimes walking away isn't selfish, it's survival. You deserve peace. You deserve a home that feels safe. Don't settle for less.